It's December 8th, 2025, and we're going to pay tribute to John Lennon, John Trudell, and Frank Zappa today. Thank you for entering the pleasure den of the absurd. December 8th, 2025 is a Monday, and December 8th, 1980 was a Monday as well. And I know this personally, and I recall this personally because my father was working a second shift. He always worked a second shift, 4 p.m. to midnight. And he's working, and he's in a computer room, working for a book company, and he's listening to the Monday Night Football simulcast on a portable radio. And he heard the news from Howard Cosell, and you can go on YouTube and watch the clip as it happened on television, and that's what my father was listening to. And he called the house as soon as he got the news. I mean, his job was only about 5 minutes away from the house, and he was going to be home just after midnight. And he called to tell us he knew his 4 sons really appreciated the Beatles, and it was a big deal. It was a shock. It really was for everybody at that time. You can, all those authentic clips from that time period on YouTube is a real time capsule. And I don't remember quite what happened afterwards. I know we were awoken out of bed. My mom took the call and told us, and so we were up, and afterwards, the next day and the next few days, it was huge news. It was big, and people were trying to process it. So they were going to have a vigil in New York City in Central Park. And my 2 oldest brothers went with my cool cousin Patty, and her brother Billy was videotaping the news footage that all the New York news stations were taking of it. And one of the news clips, you could see my 2 brothers standing there amongst the crowd. And it's been 45 years, and part of the huge sorrow that it was not only was Lennon shot and murdered, but it was just that he had just released a record in October, his first record in 5 years. It was a big deal. And there's a really good book about the making of Double Fantasy, that record. And the whole premise was Lennon, was he was writing a bunch of songs, and he wanted to record a record. It had been a while, and he was doing these sessions for the record in secret. And everybody was on a strict code of silence. And if word leaked out to the press that John Lennon was working on a new solo record, it was going to be terminated immediately. Like, he was not going to proceed with it. And so he was able to do that. And there's a lot of good songs, Lennon songs on there. Starting Over is good. Watching the Wheels is one of my favorites. I'm Losing You is really good. It's got that twin guitar, Beatles style attack. And, Beautiful Boy was very heartfelt, and became sorrowful, especially after he was killed. And so all throughout the 70s, the Beatles were a big deal, and one of the guys could never go through an interview without somebody asking him, how are the Beatles ever going to reunite, and blah, blah, blah. So they could never escape it. And, in Lennon's absence of recording, Wings was have some popularity, but, you know, they were always kind of up and down. The solo Beatles were always kind of up and down with the critics, you know, of the time. And I remember that, you know. And, you know, Harrison had some albums. He had a best of collection, and Ringo was making movies, and his albums weren't quite as popular as they used to be. And with Lennon coming back to the fore, you know, people were kind of excited. Hey, maybe, you know, they would reunite. And that was all shattered. And the worst part of it, too, is according to that book, The Making of Double Fantasy, Lennon was so impressed with the studio band and so happy with them that he was wanting to go out on tour in the spring of 1981 with that band, or at least as many guys as he could take on the road with them. So that was a huge loss there too. So it was a big deal to those that remember John Lennon. And he also happened to be my favorite Beatle. You know, we can't deny John, Paul, George, and Ringo as a whole, but John definitely had significance with me, and I always appreciated his contributions to the band. And on December 8th, 2015, John Trudell passed away. A big inspiration for me. John Trudell made this album with Jesse Ed Davis, aka Graffiti Man, in 1986. And this is significant towards Lennon because John Trudell was affected by rock and roll and Elvis, just like people like the Beatles and everyone else of that generation. And there's a track on here. John Trudell became a spoken word artist after his political activism with the American Indian movement, and he teamed up with fellow Native American Jesse Ed Davis. And Jesse Ed Davis had played lead guitar on John Lennon's Walls and Bridges and rock and roll albums, and he was a hotshot guitar player. Everybody wanted him. And in the mid-'80s, he hooked up with Trudell, and it was great. You know, Trudell found his niche, and Jesse Ed Davis helped push him over that edge. And there's a track on here that's dedicated to Elvis called Baby Boom Che. And it's all about the impact that Elvis had culturally on natives and just kids in general of that generation. And also, there's a track on here towards John Lennon and his being an influence, and that's called God Bless and Breed You All. Real interesting poetry work. John Trudell is a huge inspiration to me, and if you want to know more about John Trudell, as I grab my discs, there's a documentary about him. You'll learn all about his Native American activism and his career switch to being a spoken word artist. And it's very good, very well done. A lot of documentary film footage in there. And if you want to learn more about Trudell teaming up with Jesse Ed Davis and the impact that each had on the other, that is explored partly in this documentary called Rumble, The Indians Who Rocked the World. It's all about Native American artists, people that had Indian blood. That's Link Ray on the poster there. Link Ray, Charlie Patton, Jimi Hendrix, Robbie Robertson, Jesse Ed Davis, and a whole slew of other artists that you probably weren't aware of that had Indian blood. A very good documentary, Rumble. And being that it's December 8th, we're in the time period known as ZAPPADAN, which goes from December 4th to December 21st every year. That's the day that Frank Zappa died, December 4th, and it goes all the way up to his birthday, December 21st. And if you want to learn a little bit more about the teaming of John Lennon, Yoko Ono, and Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, well, you'll hear about it in this documentary called Zappa. This was from 2020, directed by Alex Winter, and it's got a lot of archival footage in it. Very good documentary on Frank Zappa. The way this movie starts will just blow your mind, and it's very well done. Very good documentary about Frank. So I just wanted to do a quick memorial tribute to all these people that had a huge influence on myself and my creativity, and whenever I'm kind of down, from the world outside of the sanctuary, I'll listen to some Trudell tracks, and it just resets me. It makes me remember, where I'm coming from, and I can battle the world afterwards. And like I say, Lennon was my favorite Beatle, and a lot of my favorite Beatles songs were mainly written by Lennon. Strawberry Fields Forever, Nowhere Man, a lot of that early stuff too. Lennon really shines, in the Beatles. He's very emotive in his voice, and I think that's why a lot of people gravitated towards Lennon as being their favorite Beatle, because he could do it all. He could scream, and Paul had it too, but Paul was more smooth and just more natural about it, and I think Lennon was kind of more shy about his approach, as much as he was into rock and roll and the whole thing. I think he still had a little I guess humility about him, and a little shyness about him, and it comes through. And I think, I don't know, all those guys, if you ever listen to the Beatles in their interviews, they always, and especially in those early years, they gravitated towards John as being sort of an anchor for the band, and it worked, So, and again, we're in the period of ZAPPADAN, where we celebrate the life and career of Frank Zappa, who's just sorely missed at this point. Time keeps slipping on into the future, and just have to keep moving ahead. I don't know if we'll see guys like this again, but I like to do my little bit, because they keep my spirit alive. And if that means anything to you, I want to thank you for watching. If anything I said might mean anything to somebody else, share the video, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'm Kyle in the Sanctuary. I want to thank you for visiting my channel, Pleasure Den of the Absurd. And again, I thank you for watching.